All right, first day of Read Aloud. I'm going to start reading because of Mr. Terupt. And I think this is a super good book. We're going to start by working on inferencing today. And so what inferencing is, if you don't remember, is when you take information that the author gives you, and then you add your own personal background knowledge to that information to try to make some connections about how maybe the character is feeling or what their motivation might be about why they're doing something. And so then that is an inference, and it's that easy. So on our Google Classroom today, there will be an assignment for you to answer a question or make an inference about what we're reading in the first couple sections. The way this book is organized is it's got, let me show you. So it's got parts. So like I have here, part 1. And then this one has months. So September, it's backwards for you, but it says September. And then people. So it says Peter. So this is going to be told through the viewpoint of the students in Mr. Terupt's classroom. And so we are going to find out some interesting things, and it's a very good book. I'm going to read kind of through the first couple pages too, just to give you some idea of what we're going to be reading about before we get started. And then after this video, I will probably just start talking about our skill and then just read. So this is by Rob Buyea, I believe is how you pronounce his name. So I'm going to get started. Okay, so this says, what Mr. Terupt's students have to say about him. Peter, how cool was Mr. Terupt? He sure could be funny, and I'm a funny guy. Luke, I wish Mr. Terupt hadn't trusted us so much. Maybe it was because he was a first-year teacher and didn't know better. But I don't think that was it. I think it was a case of Mr. Terupt being a special teacher. Alexia, I was like, I have this new guy for a teacher. That's so cool. Jessica, I smiled again. I couldn't believe it. My teacher was new, too, and he liked what I was reading. I don't know why, but somehow he made my butterflies disappear. If I was making an inference right now as a good reader, I would say that Jessica is a new student to this school and that she's feeling nervous about being at this school. And what I connected was that she said my teacher was new too, so that must mean that she's also new. And she also said that he made her butterflies disappear. And what I know is that people describe being nervous by having butterflies in your stomach. So that makes me think that maybe Jessica's feeling nervous. So I made an inference as a good reader that Jessica is a new student there and she feels nervous about that. Danielle, it was a super wonderful day. Mr. Terupt was smiling, so was I. Anna, Mr. Terupt turned out to be different. He noticed me on the first day. It made me nervous, but it turned out to be a good thing in the end. If I was making another inference, I would say that maybe Anna is a person who is pretty shy and that she doesn't really speak up much or get to know people. Because she's saying that he noticed her on the first day, which makes me think that maybe other teachers or other people didn't notice her right away. And it must be because she's more shy or quiet. Jeffrey, our hard work mattered to Mr. Terupt, even mine. I owed him now. I had to try, even if only a little. All right, so this is because of Mr. Terupt. We are starting with part 1 in September from Peter's point of view. It's our bad luck to have teachers in this world, But since we're stuck with them, the best we can do is hope to get a brand new one instead of a mean old fart. New teachers don't know the rules, so you can get away with things the old-timers would squash you for. That was my theory. So I was feeling pretty excited to start 5th grade. Since I was getting a rookie teacher, a guy named Mr. Terupt, right away I put him to the test. If the bathroom pass is free, all you have to do is take it and go. This year, the bathrooms are right across the hall. It's always been an easy way to get out of doing work. I can be really sneaky like that. I take the pass all the time, and the teachers never notice. And like I said, Mr. Terupt was a rookie, so I knew he wasn't going to catch me. What's a rookie? It's a person who is new or not very experienced at an activity. So you'll hear that term a lot in like sports, or specifically I've heard it a lot in baseball. There's even a movie called The Rookie. So they're thinking, or Peter is thinking that Mr. Terupt is new, so he's not gonna know better than to let him go to the bathroom all the time. Once you're in the bathroom, it's mess around time. All the other teachers on our floor were women, so you didn't have to worry about them barging in on you. Grab the bars to the stalls and swing. Try to touch your feet to the ceiling. Swing hard. If someone's in the stall, it's really funny to swing and kick his door in, especially if he's a younger kid. If you scare him bad enough, he might pee on himself a little. That's funny. Or if your buddy's using the urinal, you can push him from behind and flush it at the same time. Then he might get a little wet. That's pretty funny too. Some kids like to plug the toilets with big wads of toilet paper, but I don't suggest you try doing that. You get in big trouble. My older brother told me his friend got caught and he had to scrub the toilets with a toothbrush. He said the principal made him brush his teeth with that toothbrush afterward too. Mrs. Williams is pretty tough, but I don't think she'd give out that kind of punishment. I don't want to find out either. When I came back into the classroom after my 4th or 5th trip, Mr. Terupt looked at me and said, "Boy, Peter, I'm going to have to call you Mr. Peabody, or better yet, Peter the Peer. You do more peeing than a dog walking by a mile of fire hydrants." Everybody laughed. I was wrong. He had noticed. I sat down. Then Mr. Terupt came over and whispered in my ear. My grandpa used to tell me to tie a knot in it. I didn't know what to do. My eyes got real big when he said that. I couldn't believe it, but that didn't matter. Mr. Terupt just went back to the front board and the math problem he was going over. I sat there with my big eyes, soon a smile too. "What did he say?" Marty asked. Marty's desk was right next to mine. "Nothing," I said. Ben and Wendy leaned across the desks to hear. They sat right across from us. Our 4 desks made up table number 3. Mr. Terupt called us by tables sometimes. "Nothing," I said again. It would be my secret. How cool was Mr. Terupt? His reaction was better than being yelled at like the old farts would have done. Some kids in my class would have cried, but not me. And somehow, I think Mr. Terupt knew I wouldn't. It was his way of letting me know he knew what was going on without making a huge stink about it. I liked that about Mr. Terupt. He sure could be funny, and I'm a funny guy. This year, for the first time in my life, I started thinking school could be fun. So before we move on to the next section, I want you to go ahead and think about an inference that you can make about Peter. So what's something that you can kind of guess or maybe think about Peter's motivation, about why he either behaves the way he does, or maybe what kind of kid Peter is, based on what we read about in that first section. So if I'm thinking back, I learned a lot about the interaction between Mr. Terupt and Peter in that first day where Peter was using the bathroom pass a lot. So if you have to, pause me and go ahead and write that down on your Google Classroom assignment for the inference question. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. Jessica. Act 1, Scene 1. The first day of school, I was nervous. Somewhat. The sweaty palms and dry mouth syndrome struck. This wasn't surprising. After all, I was coming to a brand new place. My mom and I had just moved all the way from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. over here in Connecticut. So it was my first day in Snow Hill School. My mom came to help me get settled. We walked through the glass doors and beautiful entryway and stopped in the main office to ask for directions. A red-haired woman who proved to be exceptional at multitasking greeted us with a smile and a slight nod. She did this while the phone rested between her ear and shoulder, allowing her hands to scribble notes from a conversation she was having in her free ear, with the brown-haired lady standing next to her. We waited. My fingers dug into the hard cover of my book. "Hi, I'm Mrs. Williams, the principal." This was the brown-haired lady speaking. She looked serious, all decked out in her business suit. "Welcome to Snow Hill School. Can I help you with anything?" "We're looking for Mr. Terupt's room," my mom said. "I'm Julie Reitman, and this is my daughter, Jessica. We're new in town." "Ah, yes, it's a pleasure to meet you both. Let me show you the way." Mrs. Williams led us out of the office. I glanced at the secretary one more time. She'd be a great character in one of Dad's plays, I thought. My dad directs small plays in California, where I still wanted to be. "How are you today, Jessica?" Mrs. Williams asked. "Fine," I said, although that wasn't really true. We followed Mrs. Williams across the lobby and upstairs in search of my new 5th grade classroom. The hall smelled stuffy but clean, like they'd just been disinfected. I wondered if the custodians had done that on purpose to make a show of how clean their school was. I followed Mom down the blue speckled carpet and past the rows of red lockers, where some kids were already unloading new supplies. I could feel all their eyes studying the new girl in town. After the stairs came the whispers. My face burned. Why do you think her face was burning? "Here you are," Mrs. Williams said. "This is your floor. There are 4 classrooms up here, all 5th grade, 2 on each side of the hall with the bathrooms right in the middle." Mrs. Williams pointed as she spoke. "That's your classroom," she pointed again, "room 202. "Have a good first day." "Thank you," Mom said. I just nodded. Act 1, Scene 2. We walked into the classroom. The teacher looked up from his desk and smiled at us. The butterflies in my stomach fluttered as if I were on a tilt-a-whirl. "Good morning. I'm Mr. Terupt," the teacher said as Mom and I walked in. He came right over to greet us. "Good morning," Mom said back. "I'm Julie Reitman, and this is Jessica." I think she's a little nervous about being a new student. My tongue felt so swollen that I couldn't talk. I settled on returning Mr. Terupt's smile. It was a friendly one. "Well, this is my first day too, so I guess we'll try to figure things out together," he said. My smile grew. "Your seat is right over there at table 2. You're with Natalie, Tommy, and Ryan. Being near the windows should give you some good reading light. That's a great book you have there, Jessica." I looked down at my book, A Wrinkle in Time. I rubbed my hand over the cover. "I really like happy endings," I said. "Me too," Mr. Terupt said. "I'll do my best to give you a happy ending this year." I smiled again. I couldn't believe it. My teacher was new too, and he liked what I was reading. I don't know why, but somehow he made my butterflies disappear and my tongue shrink. Things were going to be okay. All right, so I'm going to stop there for today. That gives you kind of a lot to infer about, and that puts us at almost 15 minutes. So I'm going to try to do at least 15 minutes of reading every day, and then have you respond to the question on Google Classroom. So let me know if you have any problems, or if you have any questions, or if you just want to talk about the story, leave me comments, and I will see you again for Read Aloud tomorrow.